I'm
Ew.
never gonna get used to that.
I know it's different. The ding is just different.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Oh, well, maybe one of these days we will. Or we can have AI program it so it sound like the old one.
Yeah.
No. So what's going on?
Well, living the dream.
I hear you. We're joined by Danielle today. Hello.
Hello.
Talking some
We're
AI.
enthusiastic today.
Yeah, apparently.
I never get
real happy.
invites. He
Yeah,
never invites me.
No, I stopped doing that. But now we're here. We're going to talk some AI stuff, particularly more like AI and gaming and vibe coding and that sort of spin on it. We've touched on it before here and there. I know we've all dabbled with it in some form or fashion. But I know with the vibe coding stuff, I know Rich, you've done quite a bit, and I know Danielle, you have as well. So I don't know. It's like to be a fun conversation, just kind of see like pros, cons, what we like, what we don't like, tools we use, that sort of thing. Does that sound all right to everybody?
Sure.
Yep.
So where we're at now, like when we first really started chit-chatting AI here on the pod, I actually had beta tested ChatGPT back in November of 22. So now we're 3.5 years later, and boy, things have like rapidly changed. And we've talked previously. I know Bob, you've talked about this quite a bit, where now we're kind of seeing the influx of AI kind of in the gaming space. Do you have any updated thoughts on that aspect of it?
I mean, I'm still good with, using it as a tool, not necessarily so much to generate art and such, but to help with coding and, figuring out issues, debugging, that kind of stuff, or even with vibe coding, like helping to write the code. I just don't like it when it's generating the game, like let the humans do the creative aspect of it, and and use it as a tool like it's meant to be. That's kind of where I'm at with it at this point.
So and this is where I think this would be a nice conversation to dive in with. You mentioned there too the vibe coding. Rich, I know you're vibe coding some stuff these days. I know you shared a couple projects with us. You want to kind of dive in, like what you're working on, what tools you're using, like pitfalls and pros?
Sure. For work, we're using it's a locally, I say locally, but it's in the cloud. We're using a version of Claude, and then we're using, I want to say Sonnet is the actual model that we're using. And we're building everything kind of on top of that. We're using that to go through patient data and try to determine if a patient's eligible for case studies that we have going on, to try to get people into these studies sooner in the pipeline during their it's all cancer, so during their cancer journey, little air quotes. So that's what we're doing as a company, but they also give us access to use it for kind of whatever we want. So some of the guys are using it to help them code, websites and stuff like that. My role is a QA engineer, so I've been using it to generate page object models for me. So they build a website. Normally I would create automation around that website to test it. And I'm still doing the automation, but I'm having AI go through and find all the elements that I would normally have to come up with and find for myself. So like sometimes buttons are usually identifiable with a ID or a code, and sometimes they're not, depending on how the engineer built it or what framework they use to build it. So sometimes you have to like create these big long locators out of CSS or XPaths or stuff like that. But now I can install a Playwright MCP, which is like a API but for models and AI. Basically, it's a layer. It tells the API or tells the model how to use the software. So Playwright is Microsoft's automation framework, which is what the standard industry uses now for its automation. Just a lot of Selenium and stuff like that. But I can install the Selenium MCP and say, hey, go through this and grab the page object model for me. And it'll do it in minutes or quicker, whereas me, it would take like maybe a day to get all that stuff down. And then I can just go ahead and build on top of what they have. I can say, well, now click on this, click on that. And it's just, like it says, it gets rid of the tedious stuff that I used to have to do, and it does it for me. And then personally, I've been trying to learn some front-end development. And before, I would have to get out, like, well, when we were kids, I would have to get magazines or books. Then it got a little bit better where we would go to websites. There's still books to read tutorials on how to do this stuff. But now I can sit here with a tutorial on one side and a chat window in another, and it's like having an expert with me, where I've been using it just, and when I get stuck, I ask it questions instead of like, build this for me. I'm like, well, how would I do this? Or how would you suggest I do this? Or why isn't this working like I expect it to work? And usually it can read through the code for me and tell me what I did wrong. Or what's nice is it can look through the code and it can give me, like, maybe some of these frameworks documentation isn't great. So it can actually look through the code and create documentation for you and say, hey, these are the properties for this function you're trying to use. Why not try doing this? And like I said, sometimes maybe they, engineers aren't the best people to write documentation sometimes, or user guides or stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to have this insight into it without actually having to look it up yourself. So it's a good time saver. But when you go up to the cons, it's definitely making us stupider as an engineer. And this is a problem we've always had. You've always had an engineer who would Google answers for how to do something and then use the code, not understanding how it works. And it would work. And when it didn't work, they didn't know how to fix it or couldn't fix it or something like that. And it's the same thing you're getting with AI code. You're just getting it quicker. Like, why didn't you write tests around this? Well, I didn't know it was doing that. Like, you didn't know what your code was doing. Like, no, I just, grabbed it from whatever. So there's the danger of that too, is having it create everything for you, then not understanding what it was actually creating.
I use this a lot too. The tool, not a crutch.
Yeah.
Like with AI. And I know, Bob, I know you just said that too as well, with being a tool. But there's something that you touched on that I know that in our space and where we work for the education realm, basically it's just making you more efficient. And that's where we have to kind of utilize it now in the world we live in. And that's what I'm going to have Danielle speak on, because either one, we're very resource limited. Things change, as you guys well know. Sometimes one day there's been a website that's out there for 10 years that you're used to using, and all of a sudden it's either gone, it's behind a paywall, it no longer functions the way it used to, whatever. So whenever you have a resource like that you have, in our little world, several hundred people reliant on, that's gone, I think that's where AI comes in. So I'll have, Danielle kind of speak on the other side of it, kind of doing the same thing that you're talking about, but, go for it. What are you working on, and what are you doing for us work-wise, but then also kind of maybe answer the same thing, like pros, cons, anything for fun with it?
Well, like in my situation, like what he described is exactly what happened. We had a free gaming site. It was an educational site. It had a bunch of like educational games that were like fun for the kids to play. So like if I had to get a sub, I would leave technology plans. But if my sub doesn't know how to do that, like I like even like as simple as that, I would just say, okay, well they can go to this website and they can just play any of like the math games. Because then at least I knew that they were doing something educational. They weren't like, running around wild on the internet. But it did go under a paywall. Another company bought it, and like they still have like if you have that, am I allowed to mention names?
Go for it.
Okay.
No one's listening to this.
Okay. The free website was named ABCA, and it was free for like pretty much the entire time that I've been in education. And iExcel, which is a math practice program, went in and bought ABCA like back, I think it happened like last November. And they took the games from ABCA and they incorporated it into iExcel. So if you're paying for iExcel, you can go in and you can play games that are related to the lesson that you're doing. But it had a lot of like typing games on there that to get access to that website, you have to pay for the web, like a membership. So, and we can't afford that. So it kind of like put a big damper on just kids being able to go play an educational game. So like I started getting into the vibe coding and I was like, you know what? I can do that. I can, figure out enough where I am making an educational game, a very basic educational game. But like I look at it as like trying to fill a need. So like one of the biggest things with my kids is like on the Chromebooks, they have the trackpad and they also have touchscreen. Well, I hate the touchscreen for the little kids. Sorry, Tom, but I hate the touchscreen for the little kids. So I was able to go in and make some games that completely shut the touchscreen off so that they have to practice the touchpad. And it's like what's the best way to even just, it's not Flappy Bird. It's just like, it's like a very basic little game where you're, dragging a little character around and collecting different things, but they like loved it. And they love the fact that like I made it and I used my students as like beta testers. So they would go in and they would practice these games. I made a bunch of those games. I made at that same time, I was using Typing Club for all of our typing and they changed the way the ads were going. So that was a mess. So we couldn't use Typing Club for a while there. So then I started creating like typing games and I was trying to like, instead of just like them sitting there going like F and J, F, J, F, J, I built a whole system where they can go in and type about a subject. So they get to go in and they pick what subject it is. It could be like local history of like areas around us. I have one for every single state. So it has 10 different facts about those states. I have one for the presidents. I have different kinds of animals that you find across the world. Is it the most perfect thing? No. I do have a background in HTML, but I didn't use it for so long. But I've gotten to a point where with the vibe coding that it's like, I know when something's not right and I've figured out how to talk to AI to fix it. But it's kind of like filling a gap for me and also like allowing me to be creative in something that I'm not an expert in. But it's also, I think that it's really been a benefit to my students. And that's what the whole point of it is that like, I'm not making a cent off of it, but I do, I get feedback from my students all the time. I was just talking about this. I have a game on there that is from, it was from a group of boys that I had that they were the type of group that they had to sit in like separate tables completely. They couldn't behave. So as the school year went, they started playing chess. They just out of nowhere liked chess. They were bringing full chess games in and playing it on the playground. So I sat down with them and they helped me create a game that not only can you go in and play chess against an AI player, it actually walks you through how to play chess. It teaches you how to play chess. And I told them, I said, I don't know how to play chess. And honestly, I don't really want to learn, but that's where you come in. You can help me, make this app. And then all these other kids can go in and learn something that you are very passionate about. And it worked out really well. It worked out really well.
Yeah, it was really cool too, because when she made that, I had was on a call with some fellow techs in Illinois we work at, and there's a gentleman, he was getting ready to retire, and we were just talking about AI in general and whatnot. And I had mentioned that that Danielle had been working on all this, and so I flipped him the link and said, hey, this is what we're doing, whatever. And like about 5 minutes goes by, and he gets really quiet, and I was like, hey, is everything cool? He's like, oh yeah, I'm just sitting here playing chess. And it just cracked me up. I was like, but to me that was so powerful. It was like, hey, we made something here that was meant for children, and yet here we have a guy that was 60 in his 60s, I say, or 60 at least. He's getting ready to walk out the door, and he was like enamored, and just he was ready to go with it, But I think that's the cool thing. It's like you said, it's filling the gaps, it's filling the need. There's a lot of different good, positive things. But I also agree with Rich's sentiment too about, boy, I don't know. Yeah, the kind of makes us go a little bit closer toward the movie Idiocracy, doesn't it?
It can. It depends on how you're using it.
Yeah, exactly. Bob, I have a question though. There's one thing, you and I text about this a lot. I know you do a lot of. We're getting into some NFL season here in the next month or so. So fantasy football. I know you do a lot of mock drafts. I was curious, have you chatted with AI at all about any of that stuff? I was just curious.
No, I didn't. Honestly, I haven't even thought about that. But that might be something that I end up doing to kind of streamline my drafting strategy, because I've got my strategies, and sometimes they work and sometimes they bomb, and maybe that's the next step.
I was just curious. I know you mess with it a lot, so it was more or less a hey, are you are you utilizing the tool, so to speak? But that's the other thing, and I think the general question I have, and I see it's better now. But I also know that obviously sometimes you're talking to a model or something it's a closed system, so it's not fully up to date with what's going on. You guys running any traps with maybe out of date information when you're doing stuff or anything in that regard?
Outdated or just wrong?
Either or, really.
I was gonna say, because my mom called me today actually, and she was very proud of herself because she's actually started to use AI, and she was talking about how she was using it for genealogy type stuff, and they came across something that was just like blatantly wrong. So she was telling me how she was telling the AI that was wrong, and it was like, very politely, like, okay, I will keep note of that. Like, it was like speculation. It was relaying speculation as truth.
That's a pretty powerful statement too, within and of itself. Rich, what about you? Like, whenever you're either, whether it's work or I know you've got some projects going on outside of work with it, wrong, outdated, anything that's come across is just.
No, I've had a couple local, like stuff I've run locally, come up with wrong stuff or not work, but that's only because the models I was using weren't strong enough to do what I was trying to get them to do. As soon as I went to something more tailored towards development or the stuff that we have through work, which is completely tailored towards engineering, then they worked fine. I haven't really been using them for, general knowledge or questions or stuff like that. So nothing, like I wouldn't really come up with anything that would be completely wrong.
Gotcha. I mean, I find myself maybe more and more with obscure things, like trying to figure out like a part or a component of a piece of networking equipment that was from 10 or 15 years ago that, I really don't, it's a lot easier to snap a picture and just throw it in a Gemini And then I guess you're kind of like in the same frame of, well, I'm hoping what I get is a correct response because I'm just trying to be more efficient, so I'm not having to search for it myself.
Gotcha.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. But I also, more often than not, I still see some things that are coming back as, I don't think this is right. This isn't what I've asked, or the response is a little off, or it's just not quite where I thought it was going to be. But I think that's just maybe the whatever model or AI in general is, that it's learning, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. It's not supposed to be a perfect being. You're not talking to God. I mean, that's
You're not?
No, you're not. Believe it or not. Did you know that?
Danielle hit on something too. It is knowing how to create the prompt to get it to do stuff matters too. And I'm learning as I go as well what to tell. Like I can actually, when I was first starting, I was just telling it to do stuff. You can actually tell it to do this and then verify that it works. And it'll actually verify it while it's building it. Like it'll do the test. Like, oh yeah. Now the one I'm working with is actually finding. I gave it access to my. I gave it limited access to my GitHub account and said, "Hey, look through this repo for me." And actually create feature branches. So the stuff that I really don't want to work at all, like I wanted to create an image uploader. And I'm like, I have the basics on how to do this, but I don't feel like doing it. Build a feature branch that does the image uploader and look through. Okay, I did all that. And then I found this bug that you had where it was expecting this one image file. And if it gave it another one, it would break. So I limited it where it would only accept these other things. Like, oh, that's cool. Thank you for doing that. I've been playing with OpenClaw. OpenClaw is, I guess you'd call it a agent that kind of sits between the AI and the whatever, and it remembers stuff and learns about you as it goes. And that's been fascinating because you talk to it through a chat, like not just a chat thing, but like Discord or Slack or a channel like that. And it's like you're talking to a person, and you can build it. You can build it a personality. So I tried to tell it to talk like someone from the movie Hackers, and it was like, okay, this is really annoying. Stop doing that. And then I told it talk like someone that was born in 1981 that grew up in the South Jersey suburbs of Philadelphia that's tech savvy, and like, oh, this is definitely much more like what I was looking for. And it's like I said, it's cool because it does have that memory. Like it's just markdown files that it's keeping somewhere that it refers to, but it makes a lot of difference. Then it'll go out and create a Claude instance to do the coding and stuff like that. Or I've been having problems keeping my calendars up to date, so I gave it access to my work calendar, my home calendar. I was like, make sure this shows up in both calendars, and I've been letting it do stuff like that for me.
Oh, that's smart.
Yes,
I like that.
Yeah.
Tom knows I struggle with my calendar.
Oh, I'm horrible with it. Yeah. Oh, we lost Bob. I upset
Yeah.
Bob.
We put him to sleep.
Yeah.
No, but that's the crazy thing though. It's like you find ways to be more efficient, and just it's I struggle with it at times because I don't find myself. I know Danielle gets in arguments with it all the time.
I
Like,
get an argument.
Yeah. No, this is not what
much.
I'm saying. Like,
Not as much as I used to. I would be put in AI timeout. Like they would I would hit the limit, and I think it was 4 months in a row, and it was just because I was arguing with it. If it I asked it to do something and it would do something else, and I'd be like, no, go back and do this, and it would give me another thing. The big one is Tom, you saw this, where I would ask it to give me an activity for something, and it would create an image. And I'm like, I did not ask you to create an image. That's not what I asked you to do. And it would use up all my credits. So I would be put in timeout.
but no, that's the cool thing about the where it's gone. I remember messing with it early on, And that's why I asked that question about coming up with wrong or outdated information, is because, when I asked that question with Bob about fantasy football, I tried that last year. And the funny thing was, it was giving me some good feedback, like, hey, do this, do this, do this. But it was based off the previous season. So it was like, okay, the wheels are going here, but we're not, speaking the same language.
Yeah.
I'm talking 2025, you're talking 2024.
Now, if you trained your own model and fed it all the data that you wanted to feed it, then you would have that up-to-date stuff. But
right.
Yeah, you have to take yeah.
And I think that's where it's at now, just with your public stuff, is that, like Gemini, for instance, is connected. It's connected to the basically what you and I could all sit down and just Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's I haven't tried it for this year yet. I'm probably going to, just out of sheer curiosity. No, it's cool. So I know, Rich, you mentioned Claude. What other tools are you using?
I was using I think it was called LM Studio to host local VMs on my laptop and run them. But somebody suggested better models than what I was using. I was using Quencode Next, which was good. And I could run large models because I do have a lot of RAM on this PVC, which is cool on this laptop. But there's been better models made. I don't know how the technology works, but it takes the 2 billion whatever, and it condenses them somehow. I think it's called quantization or something. And was it IQ that I was using? No, it was Laguna, I think is what it was. And that was just giving me, it was a smaller model, but it was giving me better results with coding. And it was just models, like I said, it's models that have been trained on just coding. So, and using
Laguna?
I think it's called Laguna. I think that's the one I was using.
Huh.
I can actually.
I say Danielle's probably taking notes, because she uses straight nothing but AI sometimes for coding and code checking. So
no, because I finally got Gemini set up the way that I want it, and I can just go in.
So you're not talking anything else?
I'm going to tell you that the Gemini gems, like where you can go in and like save prompts, and all you have to do is just go in and like type in the new information, that completely like changed the game for me. So like a lot of the activities that I have the prompts already in there, and all I have to do is just go in and like type the theme, and it will pop out the information for me. So that's why I argue a lot less with AI, is because
that's one thing I've noticed, Rich. I don't know if you've noticed this too, because do you mess with a lot of like image generation or things like that?
I don't do any of that. So no. If I do that, then I Google like AI image generator and use an online tool that's doing it.
Oh, so you don't actually go into, and that's why the one thing. So like I'm talking like the public facings, like ChatGPTs, like Grok. We both use Gemini Pro, and I guess because you have the monster of Google behind all that. If you're doing something with image generation, and I when it first started, 2-3 years ago with some of these different tools, it was like, it's funny, person has 6 fingers, and they don't even look real, and we know it's fake. And now you're getting to a point, and I say this, Gemini Pro is probably the best, mainly because Google itself, if you're unfamiliar with like the Pixel line of phones, the camera and the way they do things software based is so good with images. Like it's almost like they drive a lot of stuff that way. If the hardware is a little behind, they drive it software based. So the AI image generation seems to wrap around that mind, or that aspect of it. And boy, it's so good. It's almost creepy how good it can be if as you guys said, give it the right prompt. If you're looking to do something like that. I usually only do it to make fun of people. So
well, I do image.
You do?
You do. Like for my games, to like create the little thumbnails, I'll like once I've created the game, I'll have it create like a little square thumbnail image for the games. And yeah, I know. Like I wish I could take the time to like hand draw everything and do it like personally, but yet again, it's like I have like an immediate need. I like need a safe place for my students to go play these games. So like I've noticed and my typing lessons that I did, there were some like historical pictures that I like not replicated because I couldn't find them. I could not find them. So I like created them in AI. But like I also have that conversation with my students on like, is this AI or is this real? And if I use AI, I'm being honest with it. It's like this was something that I created. This is not like a real image. This is so that you can visualize what that like a perfect example of it was when Native Americans, it was the lesson on Fort Massac. And it was talking about the battles at Fort Massac. And it's like, I looked and looked and looked. I could not find real pictures because I don't know if they even exist. Couldn't find illustrations. So I illustrated it. And it's like, they know that that's not real, but it does give them a visualization of that. And that's part of their history. So it's kind of like, I get kind of picky and choosy on what I do with it, but I feel like if I'm honest with it, then it makes it okay.
And the other thing too, and years and years ago, I learned Photoshop. And my joke I always tell people is, I learned it one night by sitting down with a 6-pack and just playing with the tools and just really learning it. And I think with AI imagery, what bothers me when I see things public facing, whether I'm scrolling Facebook or whatever, I mean, yeah, it's obvious. Yeah, we know it's AI generated, it's whatever. But you start to notice the inconsistencies, and it's like, that's where the advanced editing aspect comes in. It's like, you can take that image, that's fine, but then throw it in a Photoshop, or I like to use Pixlr a lot because I'm on my Chromebook most of the time. And I just, one of those things where I've gotten used to using Pixlr, and I will use that and then edit it beyond that, and I think, Rich, you kind of alluded to that with like the coding aspect of it. It's like, yeah, maybe I can have it help me write some code, but I still know how it works. I could make the image myself, but I don't have the time. It's not that I don't have the knowledge. It's just I don't have the time. It's just not feasible with everything else going on.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can make something and then use my skills to edit it to what I need it to be, I've basically taken something that might have taken me an hour beforehand and cut it down to 2 minutes.
It's funny. I was thinking about that too. How much time we had when we were kids to like learn stuff, do stuff, play video games, read, and now I go to work, and then I come home and I go to sleep. Or I play with the dog for a while, then I go to sleep, and I like repeat. Then I got the weekends. It was like I miss having all that free time to do stuff.
Or like the fact that like you didn't nap back then, but they wanted you to nap back then, and I would kill to have a nap now.
Yeah,
it's funny. Life is it's a funny thing, and I always, my whole goal, like work wise and really through life, is just for efficiency, because your time is limited. And I think that's where the AI aspect does help you. It can make things more efficient. But the pitfalls of it, as a general society, look, we're all fairly tech minded and different pathways here in life, but the pitfalls for the general population, it's like, yeah, and that's where I completely agree with Bob. It's like you're killing some of the artistry, you're killing the creativity, you're throwing out a lot of the AI trash through the garbage or whatever they call it. Slop, right? Is that the AI slop? Is that what they call it? And I hate that aspect of it. Absolutely hate it. It's but that, that's just part of it, I guess.
I think also like going into that with the AI slop, it's like when somebody uses it in a creative way and then tries to pass it off as their own.
Yeah.
And they're making money off of it. I think that's like, I think where that I draw that line in my head, because it's like I do use it for creativity, but it's like, as I said, I'm trying to make a difference in my students.
Rich,
you know
I
what I
think,
mean? I'm not making a dime.
Rich, I think I've asked you this before too. I'm glad Danielle Gurley brought that up. I know you go to a lot of conventions, shows and stuff. I know typically for signings or whatever it may be, but I know those things, they do have, art for sale, those sorts of things. Have you seen anyone trying to pass AI stuff off yet?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. What I have been seeing at conventions, and I don't understand how these people can make money, is you have people selling 3D printed junk. They're at the flea markets and they're at the conventions now, and it's all the same stuff. It's here's a floppy dragon, here's a fat Pikachu. It's like, okay, do people actually buy this? Like, are you making your rent for the space that you're in right now off of this stuff? And it's not stuff that's the one where it gets me. And on things like Etsy and stuff too, where people sell things that they didn't create on their own, they just got from somewhere else. Like, these are just STL files that they grabbed from somewhere and printed out that they're trying to sell. And I mean, if it was something useful, it'd be one thing, but I don't understand how many people are buying floppy lizards or snakes or whatever. I don't get it.
And we have a 3D printer. So like I have like Facebook groups that are like specifically for like 3D printing. And I see all the time where like somebody has put a file out at like for sale, but it's like that's supposed to be like mass produced. It's like you're buying the file just to print it yourself, and people print it and print it and print it and print it and sell it. So it makes me wonder every time I see those, it's like, you didn't make that model. And did you even pay the person that did?
Yeah.
Because like that's where the work and effort went in, is the person that sat there with Tinkercad or whatever program it was that they formulated that. If you're selling those 3D printed things and it's like you actually put the work in to like model it, and like I've seen some really creative ones, like scrapbooking, the scrapbooking crop that we went to, there was a lady that was selling stuff specifically for scrapbooking, and it's like you can tell that was custom made. Somebody sat there and like they made that.
It's funny, Rich, I'm glad you brought it up too. The 3D printed dragons and whatever else and stuff. You see it everywhere. You're right. We've seen them at, the antique shops, the flea markets, wherever place we've walked into. But the one place,
Cowtown on the inside.
Yeah. Well, the one place, Danielle, I don't know if you noticed this, that it bothered me to see it because it's one of the coolest places in our country. City Museum.
Yeah.
The City Museum sells that stuff, and it's like, come on. Like, that place is known to be eclectic. It's supposed to be weird, but not to sell.
It celebrates art. And
they celebrate like real art. Like, that's not art. Like, that's, I'm glad like you can print it. But like, if I had that kind of printer where I can do 5 colors at once, then I could print that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, but whatever, I could. It's just, that's the part that bothers me. It's like, it's not really, it's just, but people buy it, I
think they do that with other stuff too. But the 3D printing has gotten a little, I think, out of control.
Yeah. I stepped away from it because it was kind of like, I just don't know. I know, Rich, I know you do some really cool stuff with it. And
I don't have Danielle's phone number, so I messaged you with Facebook Messenger. I made this little, I don't know why I like these so much, but Tom, I showed Tom the little record store one.
Yeah, check
My
that out.
Minis. They have
Oh my god!
my
Yeah,
Minis.
remember I showed you, Danielle. I showed Rich. Before I don't mean to cut you
what I
off.
just sent her was like a little book nook. They have the little My Minis books too. So I downloaded not downloaded. I printed a little reading nook and bookshelf. Everything on that bookshelf except for the books is 3D printed. So the little plans 3D printed, the little bookends, and there's like a couple little statues in there. And then I printed out a picture to put behind the window. So it's like a little lake picture thing. And then I found a little doll that just kind of fits there perfectly. So it's like a little.
And that was a. Did you pay for that file or?
No, that was free. That was on Maker World. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Danielle, do you remember? I showed you?
No. We're getting the 3D printer out because I need one of those.
It's cool. Yeah, you can do some cool stuff.
So are the books from like one of those little blind things?
Yeah, the little blind box books. Yeah.
No.
Do you remember the little mini record?
One of these. One for me. One for Tommy.
Well, do you remember
the little really good? Yeah.
The mini record thing I showed you, Danielle, the little mini record store.
Yeah.
And I said, Rich shared this with us. Look how cool it is. What I failed to realize at the time I showed you was that Rich was the one that made it.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? So,
now, see that is like, no offense, but this little library thing is probably one of the most useless things that you could use your 3D printer for.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I want one.
I put it in the bookcase next to my book, so it's one of those whatever they book nooks, I guess they call them.
Yeah,
just a thing. Yeah, just it came out well. Yeah,
that is really cute.
See, there are good uses.
A creative. I say useless, but it does serve a use, and it's just not a what's the word that I'm looking for? Like immediate need.
Yeah.
Like when I had my hydro planner and we lost the top of it, we were able to print a new one. Like that's like something that's like, like it's useful. It's like it makes the machine work. Like this is adorable.
Yep. Little drawers work too. You can like put stuff in the ones at the bottom.
Yeah, well, see, our son would love that. Tommy would absolutely love that.
Tommy loves miniatures. Anything little, micro. That is too cute.
But to wrap up the AI 3D kind of stuff where we're at, does anyone have any last minute thoughts or, hey, what would you like to see?
I did want to make a note. As Richie said earlier about how like he talks to his AI. I always try to use like manners and like say please because I have seen the Terminator. So I'm hoping that if that becomes reality, like they'll like come to me and be like, okay, she's always been really nice, except that one time where I gave her an image instead of the activity she was asking for. Like I would hope that I would be spared.
Rich, what about you?
I do the same thing whenever I talk to my Amazon thing or my Apple thing. I always tell it thank you to. The Amazon one tells me, "Oh, you don't have to thank me." It's like, no, it's cool. I don't mind.
Now, what does it say? Like, okay, well, you didn't thank me this time. After the 100th time, starts playing the Terminator theme, doesn't it?
No, it just shows up at your doorstep. Like you did not say thank you.